All right, today we're jumping into a case that is just a complete mind-bender. We're talking about a story where memory itself is the biggest liar in the room.
So the whole thing kicks off with a man just trying to anchor himself to reality. He's naming objects, right? It's a memory test, this daily, gut-wrenching battle against the fog that's swallowing his entire past.
And this simple test leads us to the heart of the matter, to a question that hangs over everything. What if your own mind wasn't just forgetting, but actively hiding a terrible truth? This is the reality for retired detective Roy Freeman. See, his battle with Alzheimer's is about to drag up a murder case from 10 years ago, a case he was sure he'd put to bed.
So let's back up and set the stage. We're talking about a case that, on paper, looks totally solved, but as you're about to see, it's anything but.
Okay, so here's the setup. 10 years back, a college professor named Viator is murdered. It seems like an open and shut case. A guy named Isaac Samuel confesses, goes to prison, end of story. Right? Well, not quite. Now Isaac is on death row, just 1 month away from execution, and he suddenly claims he's innocent. This forces our detective, Roy, to dive back into a case, a past that his own mind has literally wiped clean.
And this is where it gets really twisted. The only person who can solve this mystery is a man who can't even remember what he had for breakfast. Roy is trying to piece together a 10-year-old crime while simultaneously trying to piece together his own life. It's like solving two puzzles at once, and both are missing half their pieces.
All right, so where does Roy even begin? He pulls on the first available thread, and you're going to see how the whole thing just completely falls apart.
Isaac gives Roy just one piece of information, a single name. Ask Richard Finn. So who's Richard Finn? Turns out he's a writer who was working on a book about the Viator murder. He's the key, right? Well, when Roy goes looking for him, boom, dead end. Finn is found dead, an overdose. Talk about a setback.
But wait, Finn might be gone, but he left something crucial behind. His unpublished manuscript, titled Book of Mirrors. And this isn't just some story. For Roy, this book becomes his only guide, a roadmap through the fog of the past, and it starts to introduce in a whole new cast of players that were never on the radar back in the day.
So, as Roy reads, this manuscript paints a picture of a total mess at the college. We're talking secret research, massive ambition, jealousy, all swirling around the victim, Professor Viator. And at the center of it all is a mysterious, brilliant student named Laura Baines, who, by the way, completely vanished right after the murder. So Roy follows a lead from the book and tracks down the old groundskeeper, Wayne. And what Wayne tells him is an absolute bombshell. He says on the night of the murder, he saw not one, but two people having a massive screaming argument with Viator just before he died. And who were they? Laura Baines and the author, Richard Finn. Suddenly, this case is anything but simple.
Okay, so the plot is thickening, right? But as Roy keeps digging, he starts to realize the lies, the deception, might be hitting way closer to home than he ever thought possible.
Roy's back at his desk, poring over the old case files. And even with his memory shot, something just feels off. He pulls out other old cases, and there it is, a clear pattern. His signature, right next to his partner Jamie's, on every report. But on the Viator file, it's just Jamie's name. On the confession, the forensics reports, on everything. It's like Roy was never even there. And this right here is our first major twist. This case wasn't just sloppy police work. Oh no. This was intentional. This was a setup from the very beginning. That whole story about a straightforward confession, it's starting to look like a complete, deliberate lie. So let's break this down. Roy's old partner, Jamie, hasn't just been sitting on a secret. He's been actively defending a lie for 10 years. First, he frames poor Isaac Samuel. Then, when the writer, Richard Finn, starts sniffing around, Jamie kills him to shut him up. He even found Laura Baines, who was living under a new name, and started blackmailing her. The question is, what on earth is he so desperate to hide? What is the secret? All right, hold on tight, because now that experimental treatment Roy's been on, it starts to work. Little flashes of memory start coming back, and the final pieces of this insane puzzle are about to click into place. And trust me, it's a shocker.
And here it is, the truth. The real killer was never even on the suspect list. Why? Because the killer was the lead detective. It was Roy. He found out his wife was having an affair with Professor Viator, went to confront him in a blind rage, and killed him. The trauma was so great his mind just erased it. And Isaac Samuel? just some poor guy who stumbled onto the scene at the absolute worst moment in history. Jamie didn't cover up a botched investigation, he covered up a murder. His best friend's murder.
So think about it. Roy's Alzheimer's, it wasn't just a disease. It was a defense mechanism, a psychological tomb his own mind built to bury a truth so horrible he couldn't live with it. Every step he took to solve the case was actually a step toward uncovering his own crime, his own guilt.
And when you look at why everyone did what they did, it's also tragically clear. Roy's motive? Pure, unadulterated rage. Jamie's? A deeply twisted, destructive loyalty. Laura Baines? She just wanted credit for her work. And Isaac Samuel? No motive at all. Just an innocent man. It's insane how one man's forgotten act of violence could spiral out, creating a decade of lies that just destroyed so many lives. You know, for Roy Freeman, solving this puzzle wasn't a victory. It was a condemnation. It meant he had to finally face the monster and realize it was himself. And that leaves us with this one really unsettling question to chew on. If you can't remember your own crimes, are you still the